know, I said that with economic reform, it went hand in hand with political reform as well, because our big businesses pretty much ran our government. They had everything to do with our government during or before the Progressive era. And so we had three presidents, Taft, Wilson, and Roosevelt, who would take office during our Progressive era, starting in 1900 through 1920s. And they wanted to make our government honest. We called it an honest government. They wanted to end political corruption. They wanted to regulate big business. And they also wanted to help fix the social injustice that was happening in our country at the time. When I say social injustice, I'm talking more about the welfare of our citizens. We have a lot of slums and ghettos, especially in big cities like New York and in Chicago, and the living situations were terrible. Super terrible. And because of these presidents, especially Roosevelt, he was an aggressive progressive.
What is this you are?
And when I say aggressive progressive, I don't mean in an angry way. I mean that
I'm going to get some tissue.
I mean that he was really pushing his motives when he took office. He really, really wanted to see the change with our politics. He really wanted to see the change with our economy. He really wanted to see change with our citizens. We had a lot of immigrants in our country at the time. They came over here because they didn't have nothing or anything, or they were starving. If we're talking about our Irish, they had went through a famine, a potato famine, where they were starving. They were losing people left and right, so they came over here for a better life. They weren't getting that better life. Again, our government was corrupt. Politics, they were wealthy, they had money, but they were not helping those who were poor. The wealthy got wealthier, the poor got poor. That had to change. As a government, they're supposed to protect our citizens. They're supposed to protect our rights. There wasn't much of that going on. And also, citizens really didn't have a big say-so in our government, especially when it came to voting, if you did not have money. So again, you will hear me say it many, many times. The wealthy became wealthier, the poor became poor. Big businesses monopolized, they became bigger, they bought more land, they added more business, they put small business out of business. And so then we have all of these slums, these people that can't take care of themselves, can't take care of their families, living in terrible situations. Did I show you the pictures from the meat packing industry? We discussed that stuff nasty. Okay? The slums were also very, very nasty. Could you imagine living in homes built out of cardboard boxes and maybe some scrap tin and wood that you find? Could you imagine living like that? I know I couldn't imagine living like that. You may see it, but we will never really be able to understand it or imagine it unless we actually have lived it, and hopefully we will never have to live it. These people don't have fear.
Excuse me, do you have Jeremiah Sanders?
Yes, ma'am.
I need Jeremiah to go to Miss Nesbitt in 125.
Okay. But we can see this type of stuff on TV, even on the streets. If you go to big cities, you will also see it. But we can never imagine living like this, Jeremiah. These people are living in unsanitary conditions. The worst part is the restroom situation. They didn't have toilets, they didn't have running water. So they had to use the bathroom in buckets. And then once you use the restroom, where would you logically put waste at? If, like, say if you went camping or something, what would you do? Outside, but what would you do with it? You wouldn't throw it. You're not supposed to just throw it out. What are you supposed to do with waste? Dig a hole, put it in there, something like that. They weren't doing that. We have to think about the situations that they were in. This is a lot of people living side by side in slums, side by side. So they didn't have any open area to just go throw their waste. So where do you think they would throw it?
In the street.
In the streets. They would throw it in the streets. And I'm sure there was some situations where they would throw it in standing water somewhere if it was. But then also, again, they didn't have running water, so those people would have to drink that water as well, too, right? Unsanitary people getting dysentery, they're dying, they're starving, everything, throwing the waste in the streets. It's nasty. There's also situations where people did live in brick buildings as well. What do you think they would do with their waste? They would throw it out the window. So it would suck if you were walking down the street and somebody threw their waste out and landed on you. That would be, I mean, it's just bad. But that was the times. And again, our government wasn't doing anything to make it better. So we had Roosevelt that would step in and he would incorporate welfare into our government and helping these citizens to get the things that they need, the necessities that they needed to survive in life. Help them buying food, making sure they have running water. They will also later on incorporate a sewage system in cities to keep people from throwing their waste into the streets. How many of you have ever been to New Orleans? Have you ever noticed the smell down there, especially in the French Quarter area? It stinks on it. Especially in the summertime when it's real hot and humid, and that smell, it becomes like unbearable because people will use the restroom in the streets when they're drunk and stuff. Imagine that times 10 in these slums. Imagine that times 10 in these slums. Because this is every day. There's a whole bunch of people steadily throwing their waste out.
Who's cleaning it up?
Nobody.
So it's just sitting there?
It's just out there. Eventually, it'll disintegrate, go away, but they steadily add onto it every day, so it's not getting any better. It's nasty. So he would incorporate welfare. Teddy Roosevelt would also incorporate what we have, or what he called a square deal. Do we know anything about our square deal? Good, you're going to learn about it today. You need to write this down. Roosevelt's square deal.
I'm sorry. These worked out. Tell you in the name of Jesus.
Alright, we should be doing this silently. 3 C's. Roosevelt's square deal included 3 C's. Again, I said he was an aggressive progressive. Which means that he got into office and he went to work. He seen things and he knew that there needed to be change. Our country was in a bad spot. We went through urbanization, we went through industrialization, okay, we went through the Civil War, Reconstruction, and we're really in that process of trying to find who we are as far as government and society. And so he was an aggressive progressive, and everything that he wanted to get done, he tried to push it through. And so he had the square deal, he proposed the square deal, and it included 3 C's. Do we know any of those 3 C's? 3 C's. One of them will be conservation.
Write that down. Wasn't there somebody else with him? Was it a dude with him from Wisconsin or something like that?
A governor in Wisconsin?
Yeah, and
somebody from New Jersey, too, right?
Yes. Conservation was one of his 3 C's. What does conservation mean?
Conserve.
What does to conserve mean?
Save.
To save or to put aside,
Store. Use storage.
to store it, okay? If you use it, use a little bit at a time.
Like rational.
Huh? Rational. Be rational. Ration what you're using, okay? So he wanted to preserve natural resources and the environment. So that would include things like, what are natural resources? Water, what else? What else? A big thing, oil. Okay, we have lots of oil reserves in our country, but we don't use them as much. Where do we get our oil from?
Dang, is it like
Where?
it's not American. Is it American? Is it American?
We don't use our own oil for the most part. Where do we buy our oil? From the Middle East. Okay, we're preserving our oil.
We preserving our oil for real?
We have lots of oil reserves.
That's smart. That is smart. So we took enough there.
We're buying it, and that's a big controversy is why would we buy oil from another country when we could be using it and selling it for ourselves as well, right?
Yeah.
That's more revenue for our country. Okay, but
Time of
we need
need,
to
you
conserve
don't need it.
exactly. Exactly. When we come into a time of need, say everything just completely cuts off with the Middle East, we have reserves to go to, right? Exactly. We need to preserve. What else do we preserve as far as the environment? Gas, natural gas. What else? Water. What else? Think about the environment. Think about the environment. What do we have all throughout our country?
Electricity.
What kind of parks do we have all throughout our country?
They big.
Alright, what do we call big parks?
The big parties.
Starts with an E. National parks. Okay? These things we preserve because of Roosevelt. Our biggest is Yellowstone National Park. It's like in the Colorado area out there. It's huge. Huge, has hot springs and everything within it. A lot of wildlife as well. We need to preserve these type of things. What do you think America would look like if we did not preserve it?
I will be in trouble.
Okay? It would probably be dried out, look like a desert most throughout the country. We would be flat, okay? Have you noticed when they build a lot of highways and things like that, they cut through mountains and stuff? Or when they build, they try to level out the ground and stuff like that? Imagine that in Little Rock.
Ooh.
Just this side of Little Rock alone is very hilly, right?
Yeah.
Then you got Pinnacle Mountain, it might not exist. Exactly.
No, it's not.
Okay? Thanks to Roosevelt, we as a nation will start to conserve. Then there's another C. Do we know what the other C is? Do we know what another one of the C's are? Roosevelt Square Deal and the 3 C's.
First one was controversy.
We have conserved, but what else?
I want to say compromise.
Most of our oil fields is in Arkansas, right?
We have some. Okay, let's think about what were you about to say?
He said compromise. I said compromise.
What were you about to say? Conserve, what else? Okay, so think about government, right? What did he want to do with big business?
Good.
So what would we call that? To stop them, or to regulate them, or to control? He wanted to control big business. Again, like I said, big business.